never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Welcome to another episode of the NRL Allstars podcast. Barnesy here, your host of the Allstars podcast, back with another team preview. It is the day of TLT round 1, part 1 though, so we're a bit slow on the teams this year, but I'm trying my best. South Sydney Rabbitohs are not playing in Vegas, so they still aren't named. Opportune time to do a team preview. And for this one, I do have a big Rabbits fan and also a bloke that's come onto the podcast a couple times, Andrew Gode from the We Got the Chocolates podcast. Welcome back, champion.
Mate, thanks for having me. It's always my favourite time of year talking to you about the mighty Rabbitohs and the 2026 Premiers. So, mate, good to be here.
And for those that don't know the We Got the Chocolates podcast, you got to go and check it out. It is hilarious. I still remember Andrew got on to me about 4 years ago or something and said, I'm a really big fan of the show, blah, blah. And we chatted heaps of SuperCoach. It was a lot of fun. And he said, I got a little podcast that I did too. It's just this little We Got the Chocolates thing. And it was pretty small at the time. And mate, you are now massive. Your podcast is like a bazillion times bigger than mine. And you've even done a live show in Brizzy this year as well, which is insane.
Yeah, that was pretty nerve-wracking, mate, I'll be honest. We had to have a beer or two just to settle. So we did the Tivoli. I think we ended up having about 500 people there, which is a lot of people to speak in front of. And I think if you're trying to be funny in front of that many people and it goes pear-shaped, there's not a lot of places to hide. So thankfully, it actually went okay. And we've got a couple of ones actually hopefully planned down your neck of the woods coming up, which should be good fun.
I'll be there for the Sydney one. Don't worry about it. You just let me know. And I'll let all the listeners know about it too. But they probably already know about it because We Got the Chocolates. Killing it.
Oh, it sounds like a great time to have a beer then.
It certainly does. We'll have to catch up for a beer. You should do it. I've said it to you before. You should do a integrate SuperCoach somehow into the We Got the Chocolates.
I'm trying. Please don't worry.
Well, for anyone who hasn't checked it out, it's a real funny show with Andrew and the boys, and it's a little bit of a mix of comedy and just observations and social stuff and sport. Definitely a lot of sport because Andrew is also a former professional cricketer too. He has played professional cricket, although it was one game for Queensland, right?
Yes, one solitary game which went pear-shaped, but we can still say we'll use the tag ex-professional cricketer. That sounds good to me.
It does sound better for my podcast too, for credibility.
Absolutely.
So we'll say a professional athlete even. We'll just go with professional athlete.
Perfect. I love that.
We've got
That's
your
brilliant.
Rabbitohs, Latrell Mitchell. We've got your Rabbitohs to go through. You're a big Rabbitohs fan. I think first things first, we'll look at the team as it stands now with a few of the changes and things. You brought in Adam Elliott. You brought in David Fifita. So a couple of big forward signings, although obviously Fifita's a fair bit bigger than Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the main ones, although Bronson Garlick, I've kind of got a little bit of raps on. I think that he might be able to come through and do something for you guys soon. Nice signings. As far as what you've let go, I mean, most of it is pretty natural attrition. I don't think you've really lost anything that's a huge loss. Now, as far as the team goes, though, it's all about health this year. You're healthier. You led the league in injuries last season by a long way. My Roosters went through that a few years ago, so I know how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
So health plus David Fifita and Adam Elliott for some depth, plus that now healthy Latrell Mitchell who can now move to centre and Jai great fullback, giving you that lethal left-hand edge that we've spoken about ad nauseum on this podcast, but certainly the media's spoken about it a lot. You're looking a lot better than last year.
Yeah, a lot better. And the health is the big one. I think at about this time last year, both Cam Murray and Latrell went down, I think in the same training session, basically. So a lot better this year. Latrell looks fit. Cam Murray looked fit in the trial during the week. I don't mind the Elliott signing. I don't know how much first grade he'll play, but I mean, he's a really good sort of, 16th, 17th, 18th sort of man to sort of have in there for some depth and, give you sort of 30 or 40 minutes off the bench or something like that. So I say it every year. I'm very optimistic, but I mean, it's one of those. I said to a mate of mine the other day, so we could finish anywhere between 3rd and 14th, and it just wouldn't surprise me. So I'm hoping it's the top end of the spectrum, but you never know with my mob, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt a little similar. I've got them 6 through to 12th, and I kind of think that's their range. I'd certainly think they're going to improve from being in the bottom 4, and I think you only got away from the spoon by 2 or 4 points last year as well. So, I mean, you should be significantly better than that. I guess the other big signing and loss doesn't happen until next year because you've lost Keon, which was huge when it happened, but then you brought in Payne Haas. So, I mean, it's really made no difference, and the Keon pain only lasted a month.
Yeah, I actually could not believe that, and I obviously being up here in Queensland, a lot of my great mates are Broncos supporters, so to get that sort of message through where it popped up and we'd signed him for 3 years, I nearly took off all my clothes, to be honest with you. I can't actually believe how that happened, why that happened, like how Wayne made it happen. I guess it was probably Wayne that made it happen, but it is really sad losing Keon though, because he's, local junior and all that type of stuff, and he and Cam Murray have been playing together for, 10, 15 years, so that stuff's really, really sad. But at the end of the day, like, he's made his money. There's only X amount of money to go around. You can't just keep paying them all 800 to $1 million. It just doesn't happen. So, I mean, I'm pretty glad we got Payne Haas. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, you've just brought in the best front rower in the world to replace Kieran Kalamatangi, who himself was no slouch. So, look, it's strange that you've been able to upgrade from Kieran Kalamatangi, but you've managed to do it. But that's not going to be this year. So, I mean, this year with your draw, and this is what's going to be important for SuperCoach, the first 3 weeks and then a bye. The round 4 bye is really awkward. It's a really annoying spot. You start off with the Dolphins away, which, the Dolphins are a good team, but generally high point scoring games. So that could be pretty good. Roosters grudge match, so we'll have like 18 sin bins and it'll be dour and terrible for everyone.
Yep.
And then you've got the Tigers at home. Decent 3 weeks to start with, but then the bye hits. And the bye is really annoying. You got the Bulldogs, Raiders, Dragons, Melbourne Storm to round out the first 2 months. And it kind of goes in that type of run where you might have 1 or 2 games here or there that are good, 1 or 2 that are hard, 1 or 2 that are average. And that's pretty much your run. You do have a cracker of a round 12 big bye round versus the North Queensland Cowboys, which will be a massive target matchup for super coaches. So anyone that you do start with, the benefit of getting rid of that bye in round 4 is that you will get the big bye round played by those players in round 12. So it does go a bit swings and roundabouts. But I guess with your draw, mate, how are you seeing it for SuperCoach yourself, putting together your SuperCoach team? And how many rabbits do you think you can have? Because you've obviously got to carry them for round 4, right?
Well, that's it. And very similar to what you sort of said, very up and down. There's like a sort of 2 or 3 good games in a row, and then a couple of trickier ones in there. Bulldogs is always tricky. That'll be the Good Friday game. Melbourne's always tricky. We haven't beaten them since 1908 basically. So that round 4 bye is disgusting because, and we'll go through them all, but there's so many of those guys because their last 2 years, or last year and the year before, have been. There's so many of the underpriced guys there that you're like, that's in any normal year you'd sort of start with them, but there just sort of happens to be 5 or 6 of them all on the same side, and you can't when there's a bye in round 4. And also the fact, like, if they do go badly against the Roosters and, like you said, turns into a 12-all disgusting match and they all score 35 points, and you've got 5 blokes scoring 30 points, and that just doesn't really work either. So it's a balance. I think I texted you over the weekend saying is 5 bunnies too many, and we sort of both had a laugh. But it's actually getting to that point where we can literally decide, we can put as many of them in as we like, and they could all go really well, but you can't have them all. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like, if they go really well the first 3 weeks, all that good work is negated by having to play a few plebs that you just wouldn't want to play in round 4. And you lose that points that you've gained. So for me, like, I had this conversation with a couple of listeners just over the last few days because I've gotten the specific question on the Rabbits. And my answer was, I wouldn't want more, ideally, I wouldn't want more than 2 that I'm going to start every week. So I mean, 2 guns, and then I'm fine to have like a carrier Brandon Smith or something, or even 2 of those type of guys because I'm not going to play those guys. So they don't matter anyway. But as far as who's in your top 18, I feel like 2 is the magic number as far as the Rabbits. You could get away with 3. I guess it's just risk aversion and how much you want to play some of these more depth type guys in that round 4 matchup. I know you wanted 5, mate. You probably want 8 in an ideal world, but how many do you currently have?
I've got 4 currently. Brandon Smith, one of them, so he won't be. He's a break glass in case of emergency sort of thing. And then the other three are, well, two of them are relatively straightforward. For feeder, I think everyone's got the feeder. You sort of have to own for feeder. I think you're making a mistake if you don't. Latrell is in there. We'll get to him. He's in there as well. And I've got Gode in at 6 at the moment, and that's just purely based on a team build sort of thing. I wanted to sort of spend some money elsewhere on some guys, particularly with these new sort of scoring changes that potentially might help me out as opposed to maybe going too cheap in other areas. So I've sort of gone cheap in that 5'8" area with Gode. He looked really good on the weekends playing the trial game, which I'm sure we'll get to. So I think at his price, he's a nice buy. But we'll get to him. Like I said, you could have 8 of them. Really, it's absolutely crazy year.
I've just realised that I've lied to everybody. I've been completely disingenuous with my listeners. I actually have 3 starters from South Sydney.
Yes, that's what we want, Barnesy.
Right, and I'm a Roosters fan, and I tell you what, it hurts, but like I ended up doing it. The reason I forgot is because I was going to go double cheapies with my build at the number 6 spot, and then when TMM at the Warriors broke his leg, I had to get Gode in because I didn't want to spend there. So that was my third rabbit. So yeah, that 2 to 3 I think in your starting is the range to work in. Though I will say though, just a bit of a side topic, I mentioned to the listeners a couple of times that I had a draft with the other podcasters and content creators on Thursday night, and at round 7 I actually had a complete a merged South Sydney Rabbitohs, Sydney Roosters, Eastern Suburbs side. It was only Roosters and Rabbits. And then I had to sort of decide what I was going to do because the next pick was going to be another Rabbit. And I ended up with I've got 8 Roosters and Rabbits in my draft side.
Huh.
It ended up that way. So maybe they're both in for a good season.
Well, round 2, that draft fixture is going to be over in about 80 minutes. So good or bad for you?
Yeah, I think my draft season will probably be over 80 minutes after that game kicks off as well. But we digress. Let's talk about the players. The first, when we're looking at the guns for the Rabbits, they do have a few of them that are really interesting. The first cab off the rank is Keon Koloamatangi. 665,000. Can have him at front row forward this year, although he had the dual added mid-season, I think, last year. And look, when you're having a look at his averages, you've really got to look at what he's done as a front rower because that's what he's going to play now. Front row stats in 2025, 78 points a game average at front row from his mid-season switch, which pretty much mid-season and then for the rest of the year. I think the thing that I was so surprised about with him, although actually I wasn't surprised, but I just find it very impressive, is that he had a 66 raw base as a front rower. And that was in 72 minutes though. So I guess what it comes down to, if he drops to say 62 minutes, does that put him at more of a 68 to 70 average? And then all of a sudden, is that value still there? Because at the moment, I see the value, and I think that you've probably got 100K in value based on what he's done before. I mean, he's priced on a 68. He should be at least, he could be 10 points easily better than that, but he's got to get those minutes. Now, when I look at your Rabbitohs, Andrew, it's very hard to see not getting those minutes for 2 big reasons that I'm going to sell you on here. And I don't think I need to sell you too hard, but that pack of yours has been missing front rowers for years. So you've just gotten rid of a couple anyway with Shaq Mitchell and Moali going. And Totola is glass. I'm a big Totola fan, but he's been injured for 3 years. You just don't have any front rowers. So that's the first part. You need him to play that 72 minutes. But the second part is you don't have him after this year. Surely you just run him into the ground if you're Wayne Bennett and not worry about him getting, some niggles and stuff for next year because you're not going to have him anyway.
Agree. I could totally agree more. I sort of see him I think I'm going to say this a fair bit tonight. If I didn't have so many Rabbitohs, if I didn't have the round, or they didn't have the round 4 bye, he's an easy one you can start with. I can easily see him averaging, if those minutes do slightly come down with Cam Murray coming back. I know he's not a prop Cam Murray, but he's a middle forward. I think they'll ease him in for that first sort of 5 or 6 weeks. I don't think he'll be playing, sort of big 65, 70-minute games. I think he'll be more like the 55-minute guy to start with, Keon being the 65 to 70 guy. His base is just huge, right? He's a 60-plus guy in base. Offload's good. He's agile. I think we're just going to be a bit better anyway, so he's going to run the ball a little bit more. I just can't see him not averaging mid-70s, and which is awesome at 660. But again, like it's sort of like you've already got Payne. Most people are carrying Payne Haas. Like, can you carry another big boy up front there, particularly when you've already got 3 or 4 other Rabbitohs? I don't know. Like, he's an awesome draft guy. Like, he's probably the second or third front row picked in draft. And he might be one that, like, if he's going awesome the first 3 rounds, come round 5 when they don't have a bye for another 10 or 15 rounds, like, you just go bang, see you later, and let's just get him in and keep him for most of the year.
Yeah, I think I got him late round 3, or maybe it was round 4 in draft, and I thought it was pretty good value. I tell you where I think that he could be pretty good, mate. I reckon that you wait for that round 4 bye to come and go if you do have a couple of other rabbits, like we both do. And he could come in really handy because if you're going to start with someone like May, and I'm quite down on Terrell May this year. I think that he's not going to get anywhere near the minutes that he was. But if you're big on him, or if you're big at paying for a Payne Haas, and Haas doesn't start off as well as what we hope, there's a definite downgrade option there by the time you get to, round 5, where you could go, well, the Bunnies are out of the way with their bye now. They're going to play all the way through to round 12, including that round 12 game. And all of a sudden you go, well, I can make, 180K or something out of downgrading Payne Haas. And at the moment, their output's the same. Or their output could be better than, say, a Terrell May if his minutes do actually drop too much. So I actually see huge value in him as a downgrade during that first 2-month period as well.
Yeah, and the other option is if one of your second rows are your good second rows, your Tino, or I've got Yo and Crichton in there at the moment. Like if one of them sort of picks up an injury, a lot of people are carrying Colquhoun from the Sharks, so you can sort of do a few little swings around as well. So there's heaps of flexibility with him. He's not going to go too far away after he's only going to have one price rise. No, not even a price rise before the round 4 bye. So he'll still be at 660 odd. If something goes pear-shaped, he's a pretty easy switch for most of those second rows.
Oh, no, he'll get the one. Yeah, no, you're
he'll
right.
get the one, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
so
the one.
He's not going to be too far off the mark. He's not going to be 800K by the time you have to get him anyway.
Yeah, and it could very well be that he's, as much as almost 200K underpriced for what he could do. So I think it's great to start with him. I think we both agree with that. If you can't fit him in, then I would be eyeing him off for later on post that bye if you need a forward, because he's one of the premiums. I think he's in for a bumper year. I think he'll repeat that mid-70s type of average, and I think that he'll want to go out on a high. I don't think that he really wanted to leave South. These things happen with the big contracts that we get offered, and he's going to put in for the Rabbits, I reckon. So really, really like Keon this year. Latrell Mitchell, a little bit more polarising, and a guy who has a lot of different factors to consider when you're weighing up Latrell Mitchell, I think, for this year. Probably more than most other seasons with him. Just getting him up here and you're having a look at him and you go, wow, 626,800. It's a decent price for Latrell Mitchell. That's because he's priced on only a 64. If you look at his prior years, he's got an 89, a 77 and an 85 average. That's 3 years much, much higher than 64, but obviously they're all at fullback. Now, he is at centre. Normally, that's going to be a bit of a downgrade in his output, but the problem is that he's now on a left edge that is just so lethal, and we are now under a new scoring system that rewards centres for tap-ons and passes that he'll be very good at doing, that he wouldn't have got a try assist doing before. So you can almost say, look, I think he can at least half a dozen points as a centre on top of what he normally would have gotten. He is a goal kicker in a side that should be able to score points with the side that they put together for 2026. If you are going to look at his centre stats, Gode, you got to go back to a fair way. 2019 was his last season where he played significant time at centre. In 18 of his 22 matches, he was there, and he did 77 points a game for those. That included 3 tons, one of which was a 161-point score at centre for the Roosters. So obviously the season before it was only 64 points a game at centre, but that was also, when he was quite young in 2018. So in short, I've got him at 620 plus K. I can't not have him when he's a goal kicker, when he's on that left edge that should be favoured, when he can get those extra stats that weren't awarded in SuperCoach previously. I don't see really the downside in paying for him at that price.
Yeah, I was, before the rule changes come in, I was sort of looking, and I'm an unabashed Latrell lover. I was semi-looking to anti-pot him a little bit just because he was so highly owned. I thought, centre, he's not a huge work rate guy. He's not a Val Holmes and makes 15 runs and all that type of stuff again. Then they brought in that rule change, and I thought, well, there's it's just like you said, there could be anywhere between 10 and 15 points of value just straight away, basically. And then watched him at the trial on the weekend. He didn't do a whole heap. He played about 45 minutes, kicked a few goals. He scored that try off the kick, so no line break there. And I just out of curiosity looked at his scores, and it was like 50 odd. And I was like, oh, crikey, how can you sort of not have him now? Yeah, I mean, it's just he didn't really do that much and got 55 in 40 odd minutes with sort of basically a leg in the air. So at 620, it's pretty good value. Like he could go 30, 30, 30, and he could be 550 pretty quickly. He could also go 100, 100, 100, and if you don't have him, you're gone. So I'd just prefer to have him and just deal with it if he doesn't go that well.
Yeah, and if you have a look at the floor and stuff too, like he's sort of his base at centre was actually better than what it was if you compare it to when he's fullback, because he's got to make a heap more tackles, obviously. Latrell's one of those guys who sometimes doesn't take as many runs as what you'd like him to have when he's at the back, but he's sort of forced to at centre. And I'm sure that they're going to force feed him at centre where he's got to take ball. And there's going to be other times too where people forget that David Fafita a few years ago got more clutch attack stats than any other forward in the competition. And a lot of that was his passing and offloading. And so if Fafita gets the ball short off Gode, he's got that offload or that passing and get away to Latrell. If Fafita's running and used as a decoy, Latrell's going to have more room, and Latrell can also get it away to AJ, who can score a lot of tries really easily. So there's just so much to like about him. I had this chat with one of the podcasters actually that asked this question. And look, there's no right or wrong. I'm not saying the other bloke that I was chatting to was incorrect. I might be wrong on Latrell, but he was talking about, look, he's 40+% owned now. Is this a perfect anti-pod moment? Because at that type of ownership, and Latrell's got the lowest scores in him, it just feels like, and I disagree, because to me, if it's a good antipod or a guy to go away from because of the high ownership, you got to have a high probability that it could work out. And to me, you just don't. Like with all the factors that we've said, I just think it's a real low probability play that it doesn't work out. And then, like you said, you get a couple of big scores off like he's expected to do, and then you're really behind there. And it's also behind on value because you're paying such a low price for it. If Latrell was 700 plus, it'd be a different story, because look, you're really starting to break the bank to get him. But because of his price point, I just think you can't really lose too much.
Yeah, it's just not a whole heap to pay. Even if he does go poorly, like he's just not going to go down that much. But if he does go really well, like it just, like I said, it's a game wrecker, really. You're behind in all your head-to-heads. Like and then, like I said, you're going to have to pay for him eventually. And then it's the awkward bit of they've got the bye at round 4. Like you got to wait for after the bye. Then you might have other bushfires to put out. It just becomes chaos, and you're just chasing your tail the whole time. So I just think it's just easy to get him and get rid of him if he's going no good, rather than try and chase him at $720,000.
100% agree. Another guy that is certainly a gun of the past, but I've actually pushed him up to gun status, even though he only is based on a 56 average and actually averaged less than that last year, is Cam Murray, because he was injured last year, and it was obviously a really poor season for him. Murray is a guy that I think people are looking at with rose-coloured glasses a little bit, because I kind of feel like that they're looking at him, Andrew, like circa 2022 when he's averaging 71 points a game type of thing. And they're thinking that now he's, he played his one game last year. He's had a full off season healthy. He's going to come back and be great. And at 548,000, it looks like great value. And I totally get it at the price point as a second row forward. I think the reality though is that you need to look at it that he's priced at a 56 average, and the 2 seasons before, between 2023 and 2024, he was only averaging 62 points. So, at best, across his last 3 years, you basically got six points of value, unless he's going to buck the trend of the last 3 years and go back to his halcyon days, which I'm just not sure that he will. I also don't think that Wayne Bennett really wants to run him totally in the ground either. But when you look at those years that he was, that 62 points a game, 2023 to 2024, he was still averaging, 69 minutes and 68 minutes both of those years. So, I mean, he was getting the minutes. and it was low 60s. And I remember this, like when I looked at these numbers, I was like, that's right. I was really disappointed that Cam Murray seemed to really drop off on his SuperCoach output. And that really puts me off with him. And I don't love him as an option because he's obviously coming back from this serious injury. But the 2 years before that, wasn't that great anyway. And we just got a plethora of forward options at 550 to 650k price range. So I'm struggling to fit him in. Did you have a look at him yourself?
A small look when it sort of first opened, but then again, sort of when I realized that I was going to have that many bunnies in there, he was the one that fell out pretty quickly. I don't think it wouldn't surprise me if he's, like I said earlier, sort of starts a little bit slowly and might average, 50 to 55 in that first 10 to 12 weeks. And then maybe post Origin, like that's when he sort of kicks into gear, gets the fitness back up and all that type of stuff. And that's where you see the 60, 65, 70 type of guy that we have seen in the past. But I think you hit the nail on the head with that last one. There's so many guys between his price and the Tino at the upper echelon of that sort of second row price that you can sort of do. Like, I'd prefer to pay 50 grand or 60 grand more for Yo, because I know that he's going to play 80 minutes every week in a side that's probably better than ours. So I just think there's better options that way for feeders, nearly 100 grand cheaper. Like, he's a better option there, and you just can't have them all, basically. So he'll be nice. Eventually, like, he might be again a good one leading into Origin or just after Origin. He might be a nice little downgrade for an injury, or he might start to pick up his work rate or something like that. If Colin Matangi goes down, like, yes, definitely he'll play a lot more minutes, and then he might be a good pickup. But I think there's better options.
Yeah, and I actually think that he'll make the Origin side again. I think they'll go back to him. So, I mean, if he does that, then that really cancels
you
him out.
need him after last year, don't you?
Well, there's not much I can say as a New South Welshman, mate, because we should have won that series 3-0. But
unbelievable.
These things happen. I moved the Blues jersey from behind me, so it's just out of sight. I've just got the Roosters there. But
perfect.
Yeah, I think that he is going to be back.
Yeah, he's a too good to play.
Let's have a look. Yeah, and look at the leadership and everything else. But there is another guy that's chasing some glory, and his name is Alex Johnston, and he is actually coming off a pretty decent season. 67 points per game. It's almost one of his best seasons, or it is one of his best, I should say. 2022, he went 68 points a game, but the 2 years prior, 41 points a game and 58 points a game, and that's been more of the AJ slide, which he was doing until last season, where he had a bit of a buck up trend at 66 points a game. Now, he's obviously on a great edge, so people are going to be looking at it going, look, I think he can repeat it. My issue with him is the fact that he's already at a 67 point price point at 650,000. It is just way too much money for me. So I'm almost going to put a line through him straight away, but I can see him scoring a lot of tries on that side. He might be able to repeat what he did last year, might be able to deliver close to his price point, but there's certainly not going to be any value there. And with the round 4 bye, I feel like that we're, going around like a record here, keep mentioning the round 4 bye, but you've really got to prioritise guys. And I just don't see AJ's in the top 6. I actually think that he'll be about a 61 average. I think he'll be about 5 points off where he's priced at. And I think at centre wing, man, when you're talking 650k, just go get an Euro, go get Latrell Mitchell for less money, go and get all these other options that I just like so much more than AJ. But I know you've probably got a soft spot, mate, because he's not just your bunnies, but he's running for that try scoring record this season. He's closing in. So, have you got any heartstrings being pulled that made you think that you could actually go in this year?
Like, it does the same thing every year. Like, he'll go 3 or 4 weeks without scoring a try, and he'll get 18 3 weeks in a row, and his price will plummet, and he'll be 480k, and then that's when you get him. You don't start with him now. Like, well, you mean you could? Like, it's ballsy, holy Moses. But no, there's no way I could start with him. Yeah.
It's just way too difficult, and he's got all these. If you look at all his try scoring last year, like he's littered with these games where he's scoring in the 50s with a try, and it's just, and that's the type of thing that you're going to get with the try scoring. It's going to be there, but I just don't think it's going to be worthwhile. Let's move along because the next guy I'm kind of interested in. I should have grabbed him in draft. He fell really late because everyone was scared that being on the right edge that he wasn't going to get any ball. but I am so impressed with Tallis Duncan. Priced at 61, but he's also got a plethora of games, particularly the first third of the season up until round 9, where he was basically playing half a game in his minutes. So he has immense value. And if you have a look at his splits, the first third of the season, he averaged 40 points a game. The middle third, he averaged 75 points a game. And the run home, he averaged 72 points a game. He's a legitimate 70-plus point game player, priced at 61 as a second row forward. So Duncan, I've got so much time for. He could be the ultimate pod. And I've got him in the gun status, but I feel like he could be the ultimate pod because I don't think people will jump on. How are you feeling about him this season? Because obviously he's got all the try scoring in him, but will he be able to get enough ball to be able to get those tries this year?
He looked amazing in the trial on the weekend. So I was super impressed. Looks like he'd have bulked up a little bit as well. Agree wholeheartedly. Could be an uber pod move. I actually sort of liked our right side on the weekends. Cody sort of swung a little bit. I don't know what we're going to do with our halfback on that right side. I know Humphrey's out for the first couple of weeks. I sort of liked the way that Ashton Wood played on the weekend. I thought he played awesome. I sort of don't necessarily think he won't get Noble. I think he'll do a lot of like the groundwork. They'll like sort of use him as like a bit of a battering ram, and then they'll sort of swing it to the other side and open up the space for the big boys over there. So like he might not get those sort of 2 or 3 try games like he was doing last year, but he might end up just running a shitload and sort of like be used like Nakora is with Hines on that sort of right hand side. So he's good, man. He's a really good player. It's just like how do you fit them all in? That's the only issue.
Well, he, on the, like from the midpoint of the season onwards, if you have a look at his stats, he was like around a mid-40s type of raw base, but he had some in there that were like 60 plus in raw base. Like he had, for an edge back row, he had really good raw base stats. And he's a guy who could get an extra couple points from the tackle criteria that we're working under now as well. So I actually really like him. I think in a different year, he's a guy that I might have looked at. I just think that there's, in the second row forward in particular, there's just too many options. And even if the buy wasn't there, it would be pretty hard. Definitely a guy that you put on your watch list. So I feel like that you throw him on your watch list and look at how it goes for the first month, and then have a little bit of a sneaky dig at getting him in if you think that he's looking really good and he's scoring some tries and getting enough ball. Maybe sort of that round 5, 6, 7 area, because he's not going to play Origin either. So you can set yourself up for round 12, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. 100%.
Full on guns. David Fafita. I wrote an article for Sporting News to start the season, and the first SuperCoach article that I wrote was the gun that you must have, and it was David Fafita. And I labelled him a must-have. Now, I rarely say anyone that's not like a real cheapie or guaranteed to make money and everything. I rarely say that somebody is a must-have at his sort of price point or pedigree. He is an absolute must. Like, if you don't have David Fafita, you are behind. And I'm pretty comfortable saying that. I think people forget with him how good he was. So obviously he averaged 50 points a game last year, only in the 48 minutes a game that he was playing. The years before, he was 77 and 82 points a game. And those seasons, he actually led forwards in his clutch attack stats. His try assists, cutting out balls to Khan Pereira, offloads near the line, like the base power stats are off the chain. He was amazing. And you're talking about one of the top forwards in the competition across those couple of years in SuperCoach. And the only thing that has changed is that he got benched and fell out of favour with the coach and also had some injuries. You need to look at the numbers here for the last 2 years, I reckon. And I'm going to finish off on this before I let you salivate over how good he's going to be this year for your Rabbits. The two numbers that matter. 2024, he got to almost 900,000. That's almost double his price point at the moment. 2023, he had 6 games in a row of 100 plus. Now, I've left out one injury game in the middle where he only played limited minutes, but 6 tons there in 2023 on the trot. How could you possibly leave out that type of talent for the price point of 485,000?
You can't. Sorry. There's no notes needed, really. Like, he's averaging, even if he, they've got you, I'll probably play you and Aiken on the bench, so he might play 65 minutes or something like that. Like, he's just going to do too much. Like, there's just too much shit that can happen with him. It's impossible to let him go. Even he might have a quiet game and get 55, but like, if you leave him out, you're doing it wrong. That's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is that if you, like, to me, the reason why I say he's a must-have as well is because I think I always look at the best case and the absolute worst case scenario. And if I look at the worst case scenario with David Fafita, you're still not going to lose money and still not going to be bad points. Like, so to me, like, it's
100%.
like you can't lose because
Yeah.
the floor is still good. It's not going to be less than what he's priced at.
No, it's like I said, it's like you're doing it wrong. It always fascinates me with those guys that are like absolute must-haves. It's just like they're still like 59% ownership or whatever. It's just like what I'm not sure what the other 40% of people are doing. Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, look, he's still under-owned. If you
Yeah.
don't have David Fafita, you got to put him in. It's that simple. I expect him to have at least sort of a 65-plus type of season, and he's got obviously the upside to get back to his better days if he's playing 80 minutes a game. But Cody Walker's another fallen gun in a totally different scenario because he is at the end of his career, and he only scored 41 points a game last year. Prior to that, you have to consider that he was at 57, so that's already 16 points of value potentially if he can just get back to 57. The year before that, he was 69. And I have always been on board with Cody because he has always been such a low-owned pod that could ton up pretty comfortably because of all of his attacking stats. Obviously, that hasn't been him the last couple of years. I have to say, I'm really surprised at his really high ownership. He's nowhere near a pod, and that's probably because he's just a shade under 400k at a really difficult position as at number 6. When you're looking at value, though, Andrew, 4 of 11 of his games last year were 80 minutes. So he had 7 of his 11 games where he didn't even play 80 minutes, though he was playing half a game. So, I mean, when you look at all that, he's got to have at least 15 points of value in him, and that's not even counting the upside of that left-hand edge. Are you expecting to see vintage Cody Walker again in 2026?
No, but I just think it's too cheap to not. So even if we get somewhere in the middle of last year and the year before, let's say if it's a 50 to 54 average, like that's still 100 grand pretty easily. I can't see him going much less than that. Really, he's just going to throw enough nice balls to Fafita or Latrell or go himself. He actually looked like he was moving really well on the weekend, and he was sort of swinging both sides. I think you're not going to have him all year. Like eventually you'll go to Munster or you'll go to Brimson or something like that at some point during the year. But like for now, when you're trying to build and you're trying to save funds, I just don't think you can go a whole heap wrong. I think worst case scenario, he gets 45 and you bid him off for another 50 or 100k and go to Munster. I just don't think there's a whole heap that can go wrong if you own him. And it could go really well. He could start on a flyer and go 60, 70, 100, and all of a sudden you sell him at 550k.
Yeah, I 100% agree. People do need to understand what the downside is as well. He's got a 15-point game in him. 100%, and he's always been like that because
He's got a 30-minute game in him as well.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
There's that as well at his age, for sure.
Those calves are getting a bit chicken leggy, so we just need to make sure we hold on to them for as long as we can.
As long as he just passes the ball, we don't want Cody running. He's just got to throw that ball and then just let the other boys do the work.
Uh-huh.
But it's also the fact that he's got over a third of his points before his sort of injury riddled last year are create stats. You know, he's looking at clutch attack stats, line break assists, try assists, line breaks himself. It's over a third of his point scoring. And that's great when the attack looks like it's going to be so much better than what it has in years. But it's also very risky because it means if the Rabbits do only put on 10 points and get pumped by someone, he's going to give you a real low score. And they're going to be there. So you just got to be aware of that, I guess, as well.
Yeah, correct.
Pod time. Before we hit the pods and the mids and cheapies, I'm just going to quickly mention the great sponsor and partner of the All-Stars podcast in oneworldcourier.com.au. You can go jump onto oneworldcourier.com.au today and create a free account. They're basically a provider of shipping and freight needs and they'll give you all the different providers that you can use to do that with, and they organise it all for you. It's really simple. You go to the website, create a free account today, and when you sign up, make sure you put NRL Allstars podcast as far as where you heard about them from, and they'll give you a great discount to start with. But when you go on the website and you log in with your account, put in what you want to send, where you want to send it to, and they'll give you all the different providers that can ship that for you and all the different prices. Just pick whatever one you want. No dramas, it's all done. You just pay one old courier to do it, and they'll ship it all off for you and get it from point A to point B. They're a fantastic company and a great, great partner of the NRL All-Stars podcast, so go get on them today. Pod time. Jai Gray. Is he the forgotten pod? It's an interesting one because fullback only, mate. I thought he'd be playing NRL Rugby 360 by now. I'm pretty sure R360 were right there for him. He's not there. He's back at the Rabbits and he's actually going to be playing fullback. I was quite surprised when he re-signed and he got rid of him, and the Rabbits actually paid him pretty good money. So I do think that fullback spot is now his. $560,000 for Jai Gray. That is very cheap. And I actually thought it was more expensive when I remembered reading it. 560 is really, really cheap. And I think that when you're looking at fullback only, like normally we go, oh, look, you can't do it because of all the elite options, but we're already doing it. So many people had Fuller there before it came out that Fuller wasn't going to get put there. So many people have Fa'alongo there at 500K, so it's in the ballpark. So many people have Kinney there that's around 500K. He's not getting mentioned with these guys, but it may very well be a point in case that we forgot about him and we shouldn't have, because when you have a look at his numbers, 80-minute games at fullback last year, 68 average. And that is tremendous scoring when your attack was not great or consistent, I should say, and you had players out all the time. Now with a better attack and more point scoring, you could see him going up to maybe a 70, 72 average, and that could be feasible. And 560,000, that's immense value because of his 57-point average last year. So is he the forgotten pod? Should people be considering him more than what has happened?
Tinkered with him in there, and he's very Fuller-like, that sort of really hustly and bustly, and he's not a huge ball playing fullback or anything like that, but like gets her a shitload of work. Like and just sort of like one of those guys that sort of tends to like pop up everywhere. He sort of scores some weird tries. He scored that try early in the year last year. He sort of like grabbed it to himself, and just sort of that. And he's a good player. Like I love having him in our football side. Like I'm still think Latrell should be playing fullback. Like I do, but like this guy's really good. I think this one like really depends on what build you want to do. Like so at the moment I'm running with one of those midi fullbacks in Kinney, one of the big gun fullbacks. I actually went to drink water today, so that's a bit nerve wracking. And then with your flex, it just depends on how you see this. You see this game unfolding. Is it going to be a bit more tailored to the forward pack with the extra tackle stats, and is it going to shift off the fullbacks with that sweet man sort of play, looking like it's sort of going all to the centres? So at the moment, I'm carrying a forward in flex, which I just never thought I'd do. And I just never thought that would be happening.
That's a different strategy.
He's one of your boys, though, so I think I've got Angus in there at the moment. So
that's all right then. That's acceptable.
Yeah. I thought that might be the case, but he's definitely one of those guys that you could definitely have as a little flyer. Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah, you're right. So some of those upgrades that you're looking at, trying to get to some of these guys, you could very well, use the stepping stone of Jai Gray. And I do think that there's a chance that he outperforms either a Kinney or Fa'alongo. In draft, I think it's amazing though. Like he went so late in my draft, and I think he's being slept on a little bit.
I've definitely
got him pegged for a 60s average.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say the same thing. It's just if you sort of miss out on those big guns in those first couple of rounds, you could just sort of let him go until round 6 or 7, and you might just jag him basically. So couldn't agree more.
Definitely. Look, we've got to talk mids and cheapies. Can I just say, like, I'm a Roosters fan, so I meant to hate the Rabbits. One of my favourite backs of the last 10 years is Daniel Tupou. But aside from that, the other winger that I've really loved is Yeah. The other one, though, that I almost put there, he's not quite, at the podium, he's like in the second place with the silver medal, maybe. Campbell Graham. I've always really liked him. Tall, lanky, great winger. I was actually upset when they put him in at centre. He's a really good defender, and I understand why they put him at centre. But I loved him coming through on the wing. Really loved him. Now he's back on the wing again, and just a shade over 400K. I think he's immense value. It's just a shame that he's on the wrong side. But like has been said by a lot of people, and I know that you sort of mentioned it too with Tallis Duncan a little bit, that right-hand side does look pretty good. And they did get decent ball in the trials. So, look, at his price point, it's just so cheap that you could easily have a dig at Campbell Graham at 420,000. I think that one of the things that sort of put me off slightly, aside from being on the right, was I had this, you know, when you sort of had a past girlfriend or a fling or something, and you've got all these great memories of it, and you just think it was so fantastic. And then you go back through, the photos, or someone makes you remember a time that you'd forgotten about, and you're like, wow, that was nowhere near as good as I thought it was. Well, Campbell Graham is that fling, because I went back and had a look at him on the wing. Far out. 2019 was the last time he played a full season on the wing, and he only averaged 45 points a game. I thought it was way better than that. So I was surprised, but when I dug a bit deeper, he kind of had these runs where he'd score like a few weeks in a row and had good base for sporadic periods, and it ended up, being sporadic, really nice scoring. But overall, he didn't actually score well on the wing. So I wasn't sure what to make of that, because I always thought that he was a really good winger, but it is, 6-7 years ago now. So maybe we should just throw that out the window, hey?
I reckon there's a couple of things. I'll join you in the unabashed Campbell Graham fan club. I absolutely love him as well. I also love him on the wing as well. I think he'd be awesome to play for you blokes now that Lomax is, God knows what he's doing. But I think he'd be an amazing Origin winger. I reckon, like, gets through so much of that shitty work. I think you'll find as well, and it's funny you mentioned those stats, because Souths have had that many injuries over the last few years, he's sort of like played centre, but then just ended up being out on the wing to cover for an injury, or Tane Mills head hide someone, so they've had to like shovel people out, that type of thing. So he's scored a lot of tries on the wing, even though he's probably named at centre. So I reckon there's every chance his numbers are probably a little bit better than what they probably read. I text you over the weekend saying how many bunnies is too many. I want to get Campbell Graham. And we both had a bit of a chuckle at it, but they actually looked really good over there on the weekend. And like Jack Wyden's obviously, ex-5'8", good ball player. So he's going to get some good ball. Like, he could score a few tries this year, and like his base, he always bases awesome. Like his base is always like 35 plus. So like, again, we'll say it again, the round 4 bye, everyone's got a shitload of bunnies, but like him again in a draft setting, like he might be a guy that sort of drifts to like round like 13 or 14 in a draft, and you pick him up as a third or fourth centre wing, and you're like, Merry Christmas. So I think, again, he might be one to look at for round 5 when we get on a little decent run, if we're going okay.
I am going to say that I think you could get him straight up. And I said at the start, 2 to 3 guys that you want to start, but that's just if you're risk averse. If you want to take some risk and you want to push that a little bit further, the best place to do that is at centre wing, because you've got seven guys there to fill those 4 spots. So you've got options, and throwing in, 2 at the Dragons or somebody off that bench, even Chester if he's playing still or whatever, just for that 1 week in place of Campbell Graham, I don't think it's too bad. So if you're going to do it and you're going to overstack Souths with an extra guy, I feel like Campbell Graham's a guy that's a bit easier to do it with.
Well, and I think what I fiddled with, and I sort of didn't mind the look at it, is the money you save by going down to Campbell Graham for when you're centre wing. I then got Gode up to someone, so it sort of negated the Souths factor a little bit there as well. Yeah, I've toyed with it. Like, it's there somewhere. Like, I don't know if I've got the ticket to do it. I don't know. I'm too scared. But no, like, I don't think he'll let you down. That's the thing. Like, I don't think he's going to go worse than the price at about a 45. I just don't think he's going to go any worse than that. I don't think.
Yeah, no, you're definitely going to get upside with him. And provided he stays healthy, like this could be the first real healthy he's had for a couple of years. I think one of the key things to do when you're looking at overstacking with South players, if you want to take that risk, is have a look at the guys that you're going to have to play instead in round 4 and what their matchups are. Because I did that with Cody Walker. And if I'm looking at Parramatta, round 4, they're away versus Penrith. So
my God,
that's a week that I really don't want to play Pezzett. So you go, well, I guess maybe I could do that. And if he's my 18th, man, he drops out of my score. But if you're doing that with a couple of guys and you're playing someone with a real bad matchup round 4, that becomes a problem. So
correct.
I'd urge anybody that really wants to win the 50K to actually plan ahead that much that you're looking at that round 4 bye if you are going to stack South players, and look at who you're going to play instead of them, because it can get a bit ugly a bit quickly. The other guy that's really popular is Brandon Smith. I've never been a massive Cheese fan, but look, he is too cheap to pass up. He's not going to be someone that you're playing, so totally understand why he's popular. But I am going to say that whilst I agree in starting with him, he's only priced at a 28, so I mean he can't be worse than that. 235,000, he's almost bottom dollar. I think that people are also sometimes overvaluing what he might be able to achieve, because the years before, like he played 54 minutes a game in 2024 and it was for 41 points. Like that's pretty mud for a hooker. And you sort of look at it and go, well, what about the year before? And that was much better. That was 46 points and it was at 58 minutes. At the moment, he's not going to be an 80-minute hooker. And I think that we can see that with the rotations. Mamazoulis is there. So where does his minutes end up? Because if he ends up at 50 minutes a game, like he could have an average in the 30s very easily. And that's a pretty slow burn there, but it's also somebody that you can never play. So I think that you've really got to plan to never have to play him if you've got him there. And I think that you have to plan for him to probably, what do you reckon, be in that sort of 50 to 58 minute type of range at best?
I actually don't think his points will come at hooker. I think his points will come in his second stint, which I think will be through the middle. I think that's how they're going to do it. I think it'll be like play the first 20, 25 at hooker, come off, and then come back on with 20, 25 to go, and hustle and bustle through the middle and go at a point a minute there for 22 or 25 minutes or whatever. No, like it's 40. If you average 40 for the first 5 or 6 weeks, you're sort of pretty happy, aren't you? You know what I mean? Like I just don't. It's very different like him when he did that similar sort of role at Melbourne. He had Harry Grant coming on after him, right? So, and then he'd basically go 1-2, and then Harry would run, and then he would run again. So they'd just go bang, 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 and score a million tries. It's just a bit different having Matt Mazoulis there, who's more of the niftier number 9 rather than like that pure, running power game that Grant and Smith had together. Like, he's too cheap to not have. Like, you've got to have him. But like, it's sort of, I agree with you. If you're expecting him to average 55 or 60, I think you sort of might be a little bit off the money there. But if he can get to 400, 450, that'd be quite nice. He might be able to then stepping stone to Reed Marnie, or I don't know, like maybe Brayley finally misses a game and he comes down to 550 or something. I mean, you might be able to get him there somewhere, but like I don't see him staying in people's sides for more than say 8 to 10 weeks. I don't think so.
Yep, and no, I'll throw another one at you, like because I don't see him as a must-have either, and we've all of a sudden had another very different option, but around the same price point. Robson has gone until round 7, and Aielu is going to start as the Roosters 9. He's going to get more minutes, and he's only 30k more. So you've almost got 2 different scenarios here. You could have Brandon Smith and sit him there for a while, or you could look at a faster moneymaker in Aielu, who will start and get more minutes than what Brandon Smith will at hooker, and swing him out after round 6 when Robson gets back. But the risk there is that if Robson comes back earlier, you're in trouble. But I actually think that he's a viable option instead, provided that you sold that Robson's not going to come back earlier.
Yeah, I think, like, at the end of the day, like, it might change a little bit this year with the new rule changes and stuff, but we've found the last few years that you're just trying to get to one gun hooker now. There's not many guys that are carrying like both of them towards the end. Like, there's not that many that carried Grant and Brayley last year. I think that was quite a unique build, but that might change this year with the new rule changes and the tackles and stuff like that. But I just think it's you take one of them, you get rid of them, and just sort of like, I think a lot of people are even nothing second hooker towards the back end of the year, or trying to find like a dual hooker second row forwards. I mean, the GOAT Carl Lawton's not here this year, so we won't be able to use him.
Rest in peace.
Oh, it's so disappointing. So we'll have to find another one. We'll have to find another GOAT.
People don't understand that we like that. That's what degenerates we are. Like, everyone thinks that Gode's just we got the chocolates funny guy on there and everything, and ex-athlete cricketer and all this and whatever. He's a degenerate super coach player. Like Carl Lawton. He will talk about Carl Lawton for half an hour about how he's a great option. He's had Carl Lawton many more times than anybody has had Carl Lawton. Just a bunger is another good one.
Anyone
that
should
comes
have
to mind.
Carl Lawton, that's for sure. Yeah, you shouldn't be having. No, it's a real sicko move. Yeah.
Look, it's fair enough. That's what we encourage on this podcast. Just the degenerate super coaching is what we're all about. We're fanatical. We're going to finish on Ashton Ward here. I'm going to do a similar intro to what I did with Gray. Is he the forgotten cheapy half? 346,000. I know Humphries is out in the early rounds, but I agree with you. I thought that Ward looked okay on the weekend. And if, like, Humphries is a much better 14 because he can cover hooker and he can also obviously cover the halves as well. Now, maybe with the extended bench, that doesn't matter as much. Maybe that's what could kill Ward's early season sort of starting job. But is there a world where you think that Ward does start and he keeps it when Humphries is healthy? Because at 346,000, there's an argument there that he could be better than a Sanders. He could even be better than Atkinson, even though you're paying a little bit more.
I think he's a really good player. I don't know what they're going to do because, we've sort of got a few of those guys that can sort of play like a bit of hooker, like a bit of back row. We've sort of got Cheese and then Mamazoulis is now hooker, but then we've got Garlic there as well. And then obviously Humphries, who can play half hooker. Yeah, at a pinch, he can play a bit of lock as well. He's a big boy with massive biceps. My goodness. I like Humphries' long kicking game. That's sort of where, from a pure Rabbitohs perspective, it's something that we sort of, since we've lost Reynolds, I always, and it's something that I've spoken to you about your Roosters when you were sort of rolling with Keary and Walker a bit. It's just sort of when you actually did get into trouble, you sort of couldn't kick your way out of it. Whereas Humphries can do that, which is why I quite like him. Gode and Cody aren't, big sort of 55-meter, bangs down the field or anything like that. They're sort of more runners and short kicking games sort of orient. So I think they'll go Humphries, but if there's a world where we're sort of going a bit pear-shaped and Wood gets the job, I think he's a hell of a player, and he's not afraid to run, which is, I think, when you want with those cheapy half guys, you want them running because even if they get tackled, it's still 2 points, right? So that's, again, we're sicko super coaches. We don't really care how it looks, as long as we get points for it, right? So yeah, it can look really, really shit on the field. As long as we get points, it doesn't matter. So he could be. I just don't know. But I just don't think you can take the risk in case he goes 2 games and then out straight away. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I think there's too much risk to go there. But it wouldn't. He's a good player. It wouldn't surprise me, but it's also going to be hard for him to fit him in and Humphries in as well. And I think the extended bench rule now probably kills the opportunity for us to see that happening at Souths.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you've done fantastic once again. You only jump on every now and then, but I can see that you're well seasoned now with the We Got the Chocolates. You're a professional. And you didn't throw in too much humour. You didn't bring your podcast to mind. You just did just enough, mate, to balance the SuperCoach talk, which you were very good at. So well done. And thanks for jumping on.
No, thanks, mate. And I still haven't worked out technology as well as anyone else as well. So we've made some adjustments on the run tonight, but we did well, I thought. But no, mate, thanks for having me. I love coming on talking to the Rabbitohs. So anytime you want to bring me on talk about the Rabbitohs, I'm more than happy to do that with you, mate.
But we'll do that again this season. Maybe a Roosters Rabbitohs clash. That
sounds like a plan.
We'll get you back on again. Sounds good. Well, look, everybody that's listening, make sure that you do go and have a listen to We Got the Chocolates. They are fantastic, and you can even see some live shows. I will definitely take Andrew up on his beer when he comes to Sydney, and I'll go and see one of those shows myself. But for this podcast, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, go and subscribe there. Follow us on X, Facebook, and Insta, and we've got more team previews coming out this week. Have fun tinkering with all the teams, everyone, and playing around with your SuperCoach sides ahead of Vegas this week. Can't wait to talk more footy again with everyone real soon.
You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars.